So Jonathan, thank you for visiting our conference, Rethink Trust, and thank you for your speech. Could you please tell us about your role in blockchain economy?
So I'm the founder of a company called Acera. I started very early on in blockchain. I think it was 2013 or 14. No, it was 2012 when I left Goldman Sachs to start working on Bitcoin. And then I worked on Ethereum kind of in the early days of Ethereum before it was launched. That was like 2014, 15. I worked on a Bitcoin exchange before that. And now we're working on multiple ledgers. I'm working with Hyperledger Fabric. We work with a lot of regulated institutions. And our role kind of as a company is to try to make it very easy for companies in regulated kind of industries to work with secure kind of crypto and massive deployments where they don't compromise the security while having like the right user experience. So we want to bring crypto and security to the masses. That's kind of the promise. I think the biggest thing I'm doing these days is we contribute a lot to the open source kind of ecosystem through, for example, Hyperledger. But we also have our own solution that I think the biggest impact is going to be when people see how we can securely connect different blockchains, move events and data around while keeping the overall security of the system. This is something that people don't do very well today. So.
Well, thank you. You mentioned a lot of open source, but what are the key business drivers for you and your company in blockchain scene?
Okay, so we didn't want to kind of own the infrastructure or create another chain. We worked very hard with existing projects to make sure that we have all that we need in order to integrate with them. So our contribution to the open source is basically we make sure that the infrastructure is shared and we contribute to make sure that it's robust enough and it works well with what we do as well. So we contribute but also get back. But our proprietary, so to speak, solution is basically the one that allows you to have some features on top. And our business model is basically, if you want to use zero knowledge, or you need like key management, or you want to be able to kind of manage identities at scale, we make it extremely easy. So you can always go and download the open source chain, or you can always go to one cloud provider, and they'll give you like a blockchain as a service. But when you really want the advanced stuff, which you really need when you scale in supply chain, asset management, banking of course, every time you have to work with very sensitive data or identity, you realize that you really need somebody to do it for you. You don't want to reinvent it.
And let's focus on enterprises. What do you think are the most important aspects of working with enterprises in blockchain?
So, well, there are a few angles to this question, right? So, what we learned at the beginning is that we started when we were too small to work with very big enterprises. So, for a startup, I think the key thing is to actually partner with the big guys at the beginning and then try to kind of grow and find your niche and carve your way. So enterprises, I think the biggest thing now is compliance regulations and being able to share data securely. The problem is that we don't have one solution. Like, I'm talking to many enterprises and we looked at like more than 100 use cases. When we kind of worked, I was a release manager of Fabric 1.0, so we looked at so many use cases and requirements. And the main challenge is that there's no single offer today that solves everything. Like they're not sure. Should we take a private Ethereum? Should we work with Hyperledger Fabric? Should I work with Intel Sawtooth? It's not really Intel Sawtooth, it's Hyperledger Sawtooth, but there are like a few vendors that are pushing different solutions. And what we started doing, we're just like offering optionality. So when you work with our stack, you can choose different clouds, different deployments, different blockchains, and you can add services as you need. So we're not here to displace your chain or your existing deployment. We can take your PSC and just accelerate and enhance it. And we can kind of tackle more things. And the main challenge, if you ask me, kind of looking back over the last 2 years, I think that people paid a lot for POCs that didn't go to production. And I think this is the year of going to production, but the main challenges are security, interoperability, and I think people kind of really underestimate flexibility. You're building something and then you need to get more people to join, and you can't move like a cloud provider every year in an enterprise.
Yeah, I just had the following question about integrity of blockchain, right, and different challenges that you meet on your way when developing these solutions. Could you please tell us a little bit about skills you need to tackle these problems?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like I think what's interesting in blockchain is it's a very multidisciplinary kind of area. You have to be, so it depends on what level, right? So our DevOps really have to be, seriously, like the job description, you have to be like a ninja. You have to work with like different clouds. You know, we work with Docker sometimes. We work with like, bare requirement, like different versions, flavors of Linux. We deploy on Z, like the mainframe of IBM. So we have like very different deployments. So on the DevOps, you have to be like really, really flexible. If you're looking at like going to kind of all the way to the application layer, you can't avoid understanding the business needs. You can't not learn about the actual blockchain problem or the actual business problem that are now kind of that you face. And like if you work in financial environments, you have to understand finance. If you work with supply chain, you really need to understand the SKUs and how stuff is being logged and how the state machine is moving around and what's a valid transaction and what are the concerns, right, of the supply chain, customs, insurance, fraud. You really need to learn about the actual use case. So I think you have to be very technical in different domains, in kind of, computer science or IT skills. You have to be super flexible in terms of being able to adapt, and kind of a business analyst really have to understand the use case. So yeah, it's a super multidisciplinary kind of area, and it really depends on where you are in the stack. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a good answer, because we really need these smart people that can have an approach from different sides. And the same is about community, because when the prices on crypto are really low, these people are still developing stuff, right? So tell us more about community, blockchain community.
Okay, so that's interesting. So to be fair, we made a lot of money on coins, just because we started early and we held a lot, and that helped us actually fund the company. Like, we didn't go to VCs, we didn't need it. So we bootstrapped on our own, and then when we really needed money, the market gave us money. So it was really nice. So we were able, actually, it was difficult, but we really worked very hard to keep our eye on the target. Like, our mission was actually to make it easy to use blockchains. And we really wanted to kind of interoperate and work in different blockchains. So we have teams that work on Ethereum, we have teams that work on Fabric. I contribute to Fabric still, as a maintainer. I'm sitting on the technical steering committee. So we do a lot of stuff with different stacks, and you are exposed to different communities. Like, it's nice, right? The Ethereum community invites me sometimes to judge at an Ethereum kind of big hackathon. We go and we win a big hackathon at Consensus like a year ago with Intel. It's not Intel, it's like Hyperledger Sawtooth. So we're very flexible in terms of like what we can do, and it's nice to tap into different communities. I think the challenge is that people are still they need to choose like camps. You're like in the Ethereum camp, or you're like in the Fabric school, or I think we need to think about more as a community, to think about the actual solution. And it's easy to do it if you really, if you are like in one line, I think the solution to having a better community is to try to make people not fall in love with the solution or their solution, but to really fall in love with the problem. If that's the case, then people will start joining forces more often, and we start these kind of silly arguments, like, is Ethereum better than Fabric? Is permission better? I talked today, and that was kind of the big highlight of my talk. I said, guys, Bitcoin was built with a blockchain that was there to prevent censorship, right? It's like a censorship resistance chain. And now, if you're looking at permission chains, this is a different problem that we are solving. So we cannot compare, is this better than that? You have to look at the problem and then find the right solution, and then find a community that is interested in either the problem or the technology around that problem. I think that's the recipe for happiness.
Thank you. Just the last question. So what are your plans to do next? What are you planning?
So actually this year we're going to go with a huge offering of connecting permissioned, private, and public chains. It's something that we worked on for a long time. We work with different permission chains. We already built for more than 2.5 years now an access control layer that is blockchain agnostic. So all the policies about who can see what, who can do what you share, and the key management that is related to secure computation, we already have that cross-blockchain. Now we want to use it at scale to allow you to have some private chains or permission chains that can actually synchronize with the main net, and that can be Bitcoin, Ethereum, or some other big chain. I don't know, Lightning, we don't mind. But because we are so agnostic, it's very easy for us to roll out a big, okay, I'm going to reveal the name, it's going to call the Unbounded Network. We already have partners that are in, sponsors that have committed to joining it, and we are going to allow people to interconnect and basically bring all these blockchains together and share only the stuff that they want to share with the mainnet. So I think that we're in a very good position now to get like a lot more community support in solving the many silos problems. Yeah. So
Good luck to you with this.
thank you very much. Yeah. Thanks, guys.